She was screaming, Gracella later told reporters. The screaming was coming from Tiamoya's direction, and it was filled with terror. Then came the gunshots. And I hear, boom, 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 Gracella said. It was scary, I just ran.
I look 12.
Mommy, but you aren't 12.
But I look 12. This ain't cute to be looking 12 at my age. That's the point.
We know a teenage girl is in custody over in Galveston, accused of shooting and killing her mother. It happened last night on Avenue Q. Police say that a woman in her 30s died at the hospital after she was shot multiple times in her stomach and arm. Charges are pending.
On September 11, 2025, in Galveston, Texas, gunshots shattered the quiet evening air on Avenue Q. But this wasn't just another shooting. This was something far worse. When police arrived at the scene, they found 34-year-old Tiamoya Moore lying on her front porch, bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds. She was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. Tiamoya, a devoted mother of 5 children, was dead. But here's what makes this case so shocking. The person who pulled the trigger wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a robber or some random criminal. The shooter was Tiamoya's own 16-year-old daughter. Yes, you heard that right. A teenage girl allegedly shot and killed her own mother, then ran away on foot, leaving her mom dying on the porch where she used to welcome her children home every day. The daughter later returned to the house while police were still investigating. She was arrested without a fight. But the question that haunts everyone who knew this family is simple yet impossible to answer. Why? Welcome to our channel. Right now there are thousands of families across America dealing with troubled teenagers, completely unaware that their family conflicts could escalate into deadly violence. If you want to help spread awareness about family violence and the warning signs that could save innocent lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help protect another family who might be struggling in silence, just like Tiamoya Moore's family was. What drove a teenager to commit the ultimate betrayal? The answer will shock you. To understand this tragedy, we need to know who Tiamoya Moore really was. Friends and family called her Tia, and she was originally from Lamarck, Texas. When she was young, Tia moved to California looking for new opportunities and a fresh start. But life in California wasn't what she expected. Like many people, Tia faced struggles with addiction. However, she made a decision that would change everything. She decided to come back home to Texas to rebuild her life. Alicia Giesinger knew Tia since they were babies. They grew up together like sisters. Alicia remembers the woman Tia became after returning home. Tia would give you the shirt off her back. Tia loved her kids. She would do anything for her kids. She was very spiritual, very into God, changed her life around for God.
Tia will give you the shirt literally off of her back. Tia loved her kids, would do anything for her kids.
Tia was a mother to 5 children, including the 16-year-old daughter who would later be charged with her murder. Her dedication to her family was everything to her. She worked hard to be the best mom she could be. On her Facebook page, Tia shared her journey getting sober. She posted about her progress and celebrated her victories. In December, she wrote something that showed how far she had come. "I'm happy for me." Those 4 simple words meant everything. They showed a woman who had fought her demons and won. Tia had turned her life around completely. She was active in her church, focused on her faith, and devoted to raising her children. Everyone who knew her saw the change. She had become the person she always wanted to be. But on September 11, 2025, all of that progress, all of that love, all of that hope would be destroyed in the most unthinkable way possible. September 11, 2025 started like any other Thursday for the residents of Avenue Q in Galveston. Families were settling in for the evening, kids were finishing homework, and neighbors were going about their usual routines. Nobody expected that before the night was over, their quiet street would become a crime scene. At 7:49 p.m., everything changed. Gabriela Molina was in her home across the street from Tiamoya's house when she heard something that still haunts her today. She was screaming. She was screaming, Graciela later told reporters. The screaming was coming from Tiamoya's direction, and it was filled with terror. Then came the gunshots. And I hear, boom, 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 Graciela said. It was scary, I just ran.
Neighbor Graciela Molina, who lives across the street, she says she was checking her mail last night when she heard yelling.
She was screaming. She was screaming. And I hear boom, 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 boom. Like, I hear 5.
The sound of 5 gunshots rang out across the neighborhood. Graciela immediately hid inside her house, too frightened to look outside. Another neighbor was in their kitchen when they heard the shots. I was in the kitchen and I hear the shots and picked them out, and then all the police cars, they said.
This neighbor says he was startled by the gunfire.
Yes, I was in the kitchen and I hear the shots and we come out and then all the police cars.
The gunfire was so loud and close that multiple neighbors called 911 immediately. When police arrived at Tiamoya's home in the 5100 block of Avenue Q, they found a horrific scene. Bullet holes were visible in the walls of Tiamoya's house. But the damage wasn't limited to her home. Bullets had also hit nearby houses, showing just how violent and chaotic the shooting had been. On her front porch, officers found Tiamoya Moore. She had been shot multiple times and was barely alive. The porch where she used to welcome her children home every day had become the place where her life was slipping away. Paramedics rushed Tiamoya to UTMB emergency room, working desperately to save her life, but her injuries were too severe. Despite everything the medical team tried to do, Tiamoya Moore was pronounced dead at the hospital. While this was happening, witnesses at the scene told police something that made this case even more shocking. They said the person who shot Tiamoya was her own 16-year-old daughter. After the shooting, the teenager had run away on foot, disappearing into the night. Police immediately began searching for the suspect. They had a crime scene to process, a weapon to find, and a teenage girl to locate. The investigation was just beginning, but already the facts were almost too horrible to believe. The mother was dead. Her teenage daughter was missing and wanted for murder. 4 other children had lost their mom and might lose their sister too. The quiet neighborhood on Avenue Q would never be the same. But here's what I want to know from you. What do you think could push a teenager to do something this extreme? Have you ever seen warning signs in families around you that made you worried? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because understanding these situations might help prevent them in the future. The story gets even more shocking from here. With Tiamoya Moore dead and her teenage daughter missing, Galveston police had to act fast. They had witnesses who saw what happened, but they still needed to find the shooter and piece together exactly what went wrong in this family. The witnesses at the scene all told police the same shocking story. They had seen Tiamoya's 16-year-old daughter shoot her mother multiple times on the front porch. After the shooting, the teenager ran away on foot, leaving her mother bleeding and dying. Police immediately began searching the area for the missing girl. They had officers combing the neighborhood, looking in yards, behind houses, and anywhere a scared teenager might try to hide. A weapon was also missing from the scene, which made the situation even more dangerous. But then something unexpected happened. While police were still at the crime scene on Avenue Q, processing evidence and interviewing witnesses, the teenage suspect came back. Police Chief Doug Bali later explained what happened.
At some point while investigators were there and performing their investigative duties, the suspect came back up on location and she was taken into custody at that time.
While the 5100 block of Avenue Q was an ongoing crime scene, at some point while investigators were there performing their investigative duties, the suspect came back and she was taken into custody at that time. The girl simply walked back to the house where she had just shot her mother. Police were still there working the scene when she appeared. Officers arrested her without any problems. She didn't fight, she didn't run again, and she didn't resist. During their investigation, police also found the weapon that was used in the shooting. The gun was recovered near the scene, giving investigators the physical evidence they needed to build their case. The 16-year-old was immediately taken into custody and transported to the Jerry J. Esmond Juvenile Justice Center. Because she's a minor, police didn't release her name to the public. She was charged with murder, the most serious charge possible. Police Chief Bawley confirmed that the teenager was being held without bond. The investigation was still ongoing, but they had their suspect, they had the weapon, and they had multiple witnesses who saw what happened. What they didn't have were answers to the biggest questions. Why did this happen? What could drive a 16-year-old girl to shoot her own mother? And how did a family that seemed to be doing well end up destroyed in such a violent way? Those answers would prove much harder to find than the suspect herself. The news of Tiamoya's death hit her loved ones like a truck. Alicia Giesinger, who had known Tia since they were babies, was completely destroyed by what happened. "I just can't believe she is gone," Alicia said through tears. "I was devastated, didn't want to believe it, in disbelief, confused, in shock, hurt." For days after the shooting, Alicia struggled to accept that her childhood friend was really dead. "The last couple of days, I would feel like I'm losing my mind," Alicia explained. "I was questioning, like, why? Why would you do this to your own mama?" But Alicia wasn't the only one suffering. Tiamoya's 4 other children were now facing an unimaginable reality. They had lost their mother forever, and their sister, someone who should have been there to help them through this tragedy, was sitting in jail, charged with murder. The family is questioning why, including Tiamoya's other 4 children, who are now without a big sister and a mom, Alicia said. These kids would have to grow up without their mother, and possibly without their sister, too. The community was just as shocked as the family. Neighbors on Avenue Q told reporters they had never seen any problems at Tiamoya's house before. There were no police calls, no domestic violence reports, no signs that anything was wrong. The family seemed normal, just like any other family on the block. Even Tiamoya's grandmother was in complete disbelief. She told police she never thought something like this could happen in their family. Nobody saw it coming. With Tiamoya gone, the family was left not only dealing with grief but also with practical problems. Funerals cost money, and Tiamoya's sudden death left her loved ones scrambling to pay for everything. A GoFundMe page was set up to help cover the funeral expenses, as the family tried to give Tia the burial she deserved. The whole situation was heartbreaking. A woman who had turned her life around, who loved her children more than anything, was dead. Her family was torn apart, and a community was left wondering how something so terrible could happen to people who seemed just like them. As the shock began to wear off, everyone who knew Tiamoya and her daughter was left with one burning question that seemed impossible to answer. "I just want to know what really happened, like what caused for that to get to this point to where you had to take your own mama's life," Alicia said. It was the question that haunted everyone. Family members, friends, neighbors, and even the police investigating the case. At first, Alicia was filled with anger. How could someone do this to Tia? How could a daughter kill the mother who loved her so much? But as time passed and Alicia talked to more people about what happened, her feelings began to change. "I was so mad at first," Alicia admitted, "but as I got to talking to people and figuring out what really happened, and mental health is real."
I was so mad at first, but as I got to talking to people and actually just thinking about what might have really happened, or mental health is real.
This was when the family started to understand that maybe there was more to this story than just a violent act. Maybe the 16-year-old daughter had been struggling with problems that nobody fully understood. Alicia began to see the situation differently. If a child is troubled, then a child is troubled. You can only help them so much. You can only do so much for a child that is troubled. These words showed how the family was trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense. They were realizing that sometimes, even when parents do everything right, even when they love their children with all their heart, things can still go terribly wrong. The investigation was still ongoing, but police weren't sharing many details about what might have led to the shooting. Was there an argument that night? Had the daughter been having problems at school or with friends? Was she dealing with issues that her family didn't know about? All of these questions remained unanswered. The case was still being investigated and the teenager was still sitting in juvenile detention, not talking about why she did what she did. For now, the family was left to grieve and wonder. They had lost Tiamoya forever, and they might never truly understand why. The murder of Tiamoya Moore by her teenage daughter isn't just an isolated tragedy. It's part of a bigger problem that affects families across America. While cases like this are rare, they do happen, and understanding them might help prevent future tragedies. Family violence involving teenagers as perpetrators is more common than most people realize. Young people who commit violent acts against family members often show warning signs beforehand, but these signs can be easy to miss or dismiss as normal teenage behavior. Some warning signs that families should watch for include sudden changes in behavior, increased anger or aggression, talking about violence or death, withdrawing from family and friends, and having access to weapons. Of course, many teenagers go through difficult phases without becoming violent, but when multiple warning signs appear together, it's time to get help. The key is early intervention. When families notice concerning behavior, they need to act quickly. This means talking to school counselors, reaching out to community programs, or finding professional help. Many communities have resources available, but families often don't know where to look or feel too embarrassed to ask for help. One of the biggest factors in cases like Tiamoya's is access to firearms. When troubled teenagers have access to guns, arguments that might have ended with harsh words can turn deadly in seconds. Gun owners need to keep their weapons locked up and away from children and teenagers, especially if there are any signs of emotional problems in the home. Safe storage means keeping guns in locked safes or using trigger locks, with ammunition stored separately. It also means being honest about who in the household might be struggling with anger, depression, or other issues that could make them dangerous. Communities also play a huge role in prevention. Neighbors, teachers, coaches, and other adults who interact with teenagers need to know how to spot warning signs and how to help families get the resources they need. Sometimes an outside perspective can see problems that family members miss because they're too close to the situation. Schools are especially important because teachers and counselors see students every day. They can notice changes in behavior, academic performance, or social interactions that might signal trouble at home. But schools need proper training and resources to help students and families effectively. Another crucial element is reducing the shame around asking for help. Many families don't seek assistance because they're embarrassed or afraid of being judged. Communities need to create environments where getting help for family problems is seen as responsible, not shameful. Support groups for parents dealing with difficult teenagers can also make a difference. When parents realize they're not alone in their struggles, they're more likely to seek professional help before situations become dangerous. The truth is, preventing tragedies like what happened to Tiamoya requires everyone working together: families, schools, communities, and professionals. No single person or organization can solve this problem alone. But when everyone does their part, lives can be saved. Tiamoya Moore's life story teaches us something powerful about second chances and the strength of the human spirit. Remember, this was a woman who struggled with addiction, moved across the country looking for answers, and eventually found her way back home to rebuild her life completely. Tia didn't just get sober. She transformed herself into the person she always wanted to be. She became deeply spiritual, devoted herself to her children, and worked hard to be a positive influence in her community. Her Facebook post saying, "I'm happy for me," wasn't just 4 words. It was proof that people can change, that recovery is possible, and that it's never too late to turn your life around. Her story shows us that we should never give up on people, even when they're at their lowest point. Tia could have stayed stuck in her old patterns, but she chose to fight for something better. That's a lesson we can all learn from. But Tia's story also teaches us about the importance of not giving up on troubled children. As her friend Alicia said, if a child is troubled, then a child is troubled. You can only help them so much, you can only do so much for a child that is troubled. This doesn't mean we should stop trying. It means we need to get the right kind of help. When families are struggling with difficult teenagers, they need support from their communities. This means having accessible counseling services, support groups for parents, and programs that help young people work through their problems before they become dangerous. Communities can do better by creating safe spaces where families can talk about their struggles without being judged. They can train teachers, coaches, and other adults who work with young people to recognize warning signs and know how to help. They can also make sure that resources are available and affordable for families who need them. Most importantly, we need to remember that behind every tragedy like this, there are real people who are hurting. Tiamoya's 4 surviving children still need support. Her family and friends are still grieving. The community is still trying to understand how this happened. We can honor Tiamoya's memory by learning from her story, both the inspiring parts about transformation and recovery and the tragic parts about what can happen when families don't get the help they need. If this story has touched you, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more true crime content that matters. What other cases would you like me to cover? And remember, if you know a family that's struggling, don't wait for tragedy to strike. Help them find the resources they need today. As we come to the end of Tiamoya Moore's story, it's important to remember who she really was. She wasn't just a victim of a terrible crime. She was a mother who loved her children, a woman who overcame addiction, and someone who had turned her life around through faith and determination. Tia's journey from struggle to recovery shows us that people can change. Her dedication to her 5 children proves that love and commitment matter. Her spiritual transformation reminds us that it's never too late to become the person you want to be. But her tragic death also reminds us that sometimes, even when we do everything right, things can still go wrong in ways we never expected. The investigation into Tiamoya's murder is still ongoing. Her 16-year-old daughter remains in juvenile detention, charged with taking her mother's life. The family is still searching for answers to questions that may never be fully answered. Why did this happen? What could have been done differently? How do you move forward after losing someone in such a shocking way? What we do know is that this tragedy highlights the urgent need for better support systems for families dealing with troubled teenagers. It shows us why we need to take issues seriously before they become dangerous. It reminds us that access to weapons can turn family arguments into deadly situations in seconds. Most of all, Tiamoya's story calls for compassion. Compassion for families who are struggling, compassion for young people who are dealing with problems they can't handle alone, and compassion for communities trying to prevent these tragedies. If we can learn from what happened to Tia and her family, if we can use her story to help other families get the support they need, then maybe her death won't be completely meaningless. Rest in peace, Tiamoya Moore. Your memory deserves better than this ending.